and to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we are going to do a roll call. If you have a seat. Joan? Here. Kelly? Done? Okay. David?
Here.
Keats?
Here.
Rockler?
Here.
First? Morris?
Here.
Reinke?
Here.
Menard?
Here.
Castro?
Here.
Johns?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Martin? Lund?
Here.
Nass?
Here.
Payne? Here. Coots? White? Drainer? Backward?
Here.
Kennard?
Here.
Paulson?
Here.
Jacob?
Here.
Wendell?
Here.
Falker?
Here.
Fitzgerald? Nealon? Schultz?
Here.
Robert? And Christensen.
Here.
Let's turn the gain down a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, now we are going to have the administration of the oath of office by Judge Bill Heath.
Congratulations. And thank you for your service in this extraordinary time in history. You face the challenge of leading Jefferson County through this difficult trial period. Judges Cooper, Aaron, Brent, and Mary have faith in your wisdom and resolve. Good luck and speed. I'd like each of you to stand and raise your right hand. The way the oath will work is I'll say I, and then you each state your individual name. So we'll start. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin.
And the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin.
I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of any board supervisor to the best of my ability. So help me.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Okay, let's try it again.
So tonight we have the introduction of new members. We have 4 new members among us tonight. And so we stand to be recognized. Supervisor Martin, Supervisor Rainer, and Supervisor Smith. And we have 1 online. Very firm. So congratulations and welcome to the team.
I guess I'm Backlund, representing District 20. I've been a resident of Jefferson County for over 20 years. I'm currently also a supervisor for the town of Jefferson and have served as a supervisor for the town of Kashima.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to say anything? Okay, now I will ask Administrator Waitmeyer, we are in compliance with the open meeting law. Okay, Next is the approval of the agenda. Moved by Nancy, second by Robin.
Okay,
Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
what are we eyeing knowing? Approval of the,
Okay, the next item, I was asked by the clerk to introduce, to talk through, and that's the adoption of the rules of order. This is typical for all existing board members and then our new board members at the beginning of a new session that you adopt the rules of how you will operate. Typically, at the end of the previous session, the executive committee has reviewed it, made recommended changes, and either it has been discussed at the previous board meeting or approved and then moved to this meeting for final approval by this group to determine how they would like to operate. Things have changed. So the last time we have a presentation on the board rules, there were a couple of unique changes that we were looking at that the executive committee had recommended to the county board to consider. Two of those items related to combining some committees. At the last joint meeting last week of the Finance and Executive Committee, understanding that probably need to be debate on those issues on the floor and understanding the times that we are in today, the Executive Committee moved to basically change their recommendation. And that recommendation is to basically stay status quo in terms of committee makeups, with the exception of adding the broadband working group and leave all other rules the same. As you may recall, the other big rule that was added as a recommendation was remote attendance. That remote attendance policy had some restrictions related to it. And as we're operating under a very broad circumstances for remote attendance based on the actions on March 19th, the committee felt that we continue to operate in that manner until it's time to move forward and relook at that in the future. So for clarification, for the most part, you are looking at rules in front of you tonight to adopt. They're in line with the rules as you operate from 2018 to 2020. With the exception of we've added the broadband working group to the rules versus being formed by a separate resolution when it was adopted. As a side note, on the broadband working group, that's still set to sunset at the end of this term as written today. So that's a quick summary of where we're at. And with that being said, I think it would be appropriate that we have a motion and a second. So if there's debate, we can move forward. Madam Clerk.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? No? All in favor?
I,
All opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next step is we're gonna have the clerk, she's gonna quick appoint the ballot clerks for the election of the officers, and then I'm gonna give the overview quickly for the board rules of how the election will occur, and we'll go from there. So, Madam Clerk.
Our ballot counters will be Mark DeVries, Terry Palm, and Sheriff Milbrath. And then Matt Zangel said he is available if need be. So that's what we will start with.
So the election of officers is shown in 3.02 of the board rules that you just adopted. And so for our first process, we will have nominations will take place for the chair. If there are two nominations, we'll move after everyone has a chance to speak, to state their case. We'll have just a plain election if there's only two folks who are nominated. If there's more than two, we will have a primary. Now, if one of those nominated persons gets the majority of the votes in that primary round, we need 16 votes, then we do not have another election. It's done at that point in time. If a member does not have more than 16, they move it on to the final two to determine who's the chair, the first vice chair, and the second vice chair. What you have in front of you are the ballots, and the clerk will talk you through that for those who are in this room. For those on Zoom, and I think Tammy talked most of you through this line yesterday, but Terry will activate an anonymous sort of poll for those on Zoom. So they may make nominations as well. So once we receive all the nominations, we will seek to see who would wish to accept the nomination or those who may want to decline it. Once we determine who the final slate candidates are for that position, we will then let each candidate have 3 minutes per board rule, come to the microphone and state their case why they should be in that position. So, Madam Clerk.
Okay, in front of you, you will see a packet consisting of 3 sheets. The top one is going to be your yellow one. This is going to be your nomination ballot for chair. So what you're going to need to do is circle one candidate, and when you are done, flip it over and push it to the front of the table, and we'll come around and collect them.
Didn't wait. I have one employee that donated homemade face masks for our employees, and I have about 8 of them here yet. So if anybody wants one, they take home.
Okay, we have Dick Schultz. You set? Okay, thank you. George Jacobs. Amy Renard. Steve Nass. Thank you. Okay, George, you can go first if you would like to speak. You have 3 minutes, and I'll just go in order as you guys are on the ballot here.
Well, as everybody, or most people know, I've been on the board 7 terms already. It's kind of one of them things that I never really looked forward to before. I have ran one time before unsuccessfully, but I was happy to see who we had for a chairman at that time. And I think follow a lot of the same thought processes, theories that the former chairperson has done. Most people that have either served on a committee with me or that know that I'm very amenable to other people's ideas, and I think if you served on it with me, you know I can work across the board. It doesn't matter what side we might all be on, but I think we can, work together to get greater good accomplished for Jefferson County and the citizens. And at that, I would appreciate anybody's support. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Next is Amy Renard.
Okay, how about now? Hold on. Well, good evening, everybody. Hopefully out there. So 2 years ago, when I ran for re-election as the second vice chair, I said our county board has a lot going for it. Now, today, it's a whole new world out there. And we're going to have a lot of difficult decisions and hard challenges before us. But I continue to believe that we have a lot of advantages that are going to serve us well as we deal with the impacts of this global health crisis. A lot of what we accomplished in the last 3 or 4 years puts us in a good place going forward. And I'm thinking of our updated strategic plan, our implementation of the priority-based budgeting, and our broadband initiative. So we've shown that we can work together to get things done even when it hasn't always been easy. We have department heads and county staff that are second to none. Our county administrator is the best in the business, and we're seeing that every day. So I do not think that we need to change a lot. We don't need to overhaul our committees, but at the same time, we have new members who are going to want to participate. We have newer returning members who I think should be given opportunities to lead in some areas the same way I received those opportunities. So I've been on the board for 10 years, not long enough to be grounded in past ways of doing things, but long enough to have seen this board when it wasn't functioning very well. And then in the last 6 years, to have been part of a team that brought a more collegial, more open, and I think ultimately more successful way of doing things. And I absolutely would want to continue that. I've been chair of the executive committee for 6 years, second vice chair for 4 years, member of the finance committee for 4 years. I was a newspaper reporter for 30 years, as some of you might know, and retired from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel after 23 years. So I would bring to the job of chair those communication and messaging skills and knowing how to deal with the media. We're going to have to make some really difficult decisions this year and probably into next year. And I think it will be really important to keep the people of Jefferson County informed about what we're doing and why we're doing it, because some things we do won't be necessarily popular. So it's not going to be an easy year, but as we go forward to meet the challenges and take advantage of opportunities ahead, I would be proud and honored to be your chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And Steve?
I'm an old football coach too, so I probably project pretty well up here anyway without the mic, but fellow supervisors, I would initially thank you for not laughing. I recently attempted to trim my hair with my wife's crafting scissors. Seems to be relatively decent, but seriously, I stand before you out of obligation. Obligation to my fellow supervisors and the citizens and staff of Jefferson County. I bring no yearning for power. I have no burning pent-up agenda to forward. Rather, I offer a steady hand to stay the course. I've been a board member for 22 years and in leadership for 16 of those years, and have a background in healthcare. I feel Supervisor Chairman Jim Schrader did an excellent job guiding us forward with openness, fairness, and focus. I offer the same. No matter whom you select as chairperson, I implore you to be supportive. It will be a difficult enough job in these strange times without being supportive. Stay focused on the huge issue of the current pandemic and its implications on our health, our economy, our staff, and our society. We are the locals on the front line. We will be facing a daunting task with this crisis, and it will be ebbing and flowing most likely the whole term. We must stick together, put aside petty differences, restrain our personal agendas, our pet political projects, and jousting with windmills. I encourage that we continue to consult our strategic plan for guidance and be cognizant of the fact that due to this crisis, some timelines may need to be modified. And as we learn from and reflect upon the crisis, we may need to prioritize elements of the plan. I know the timeline and completion of our comprehensive plan and agricultural preservation plan has definitely been altered due to the pandemic. We also have a pending Parks 5-year plan. Fair Park has plans. We have a new multi-million-dollar countywide communications network to get up and running. Infrastructure projects. All of our committees and departments have projects in the pipeline, which have all been stymied by the crisis. Thus, with this in mind, I would suggest a minimal shuffling of committees and committee assignments. I know this will disappoint some, yet I feel in these trying times we need steady hands and institutional memory to keep us moving forward with minimal disruption. I feel this is imperative. New board members will have to fill the gaps left by board retirements and expect a sharp learning curve. We need to be proactive, not reactive. If you agree, I humbly ask for your vote. In closing, I will offer you this. Leadership consists of nothing but taking responsibility for everything that goes wrong and giving your subordinates credit for everything that goes well. That was stated by General and President Dwight D. Eisenhower. I would say, man, they knew an awful lot about leadership. I thank you and wash your hands on Wisconsin.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, the next part of this then will be voting for your new chair for County Board Supervisor, and that's going to be on your green sheet of paper. And it's the same process, just please circle one. When you're done, flip it over and push it up to the top of the table.
voted? Anyone else?
Okay, the results of this were Steve Nass and Amy Renard will be moving on to be voted for your chairperson. So you should have one more sheet of green paper here. And if you can just vote one more time, your choices are Amy Renard and Steve Nass. And for those of you on Zoom, it's just going to be a minute.
We have all of them. Any we're missing? Good.
I would like to congratulate Steve Nats for being voted as your new county board chairperson.
So we can keep things moving. While Steve's making his way up, if he's all right with this, go ahead, we'll start taking nominations for first vice chair, and that should be, you should see orange, right? Orange. This is for first vice chair. Yeah, orange. Oh, blue then. Ballot and nomination ballot.
We have everybody. Right here, guys.
Our nominees are Augie Keats to accept, first vice chair. And Dwayne Morris. No, thank you. Dwayne declines. Dwayne Paulson. Sure. Dwayne accepts. James Froggle.
Yes.
James accepts. George Cagle. George declines. Amy Renard.
Yes.
Amy accepts. Connor Nealon. You accept? Connor accepts. And Walt Christensen.
I'll be fine.
Walt declines. So we'll have to have another ballot. Pardon? Oh, yes, everybody gets 3 minutes to speak. We'll do them in order. Augie, you go first.
Well, I think we've just gone through a tough year, but I see the year coming up front is going to probably even be tougher. So we really need a strong board, and I think we have the people that can do it, and I hope I can be part of it. Thank you.
Wayne, you're next. Never heard that Dwayne has declined. Yeah. James Boggy.
Like many of you, I've had extra time on my hands to do some reading. I managed to get a book out of the library just before it closed, like an hour under the deadline. And it was on chief executives and the books that they had written. And I've been tumbling my way through the founding fathers. And what has stood out in my mind was not the fact that they wrote these books, which were really more diaries and they weren't well written, but that they never ran for their office. There weren't really political meetings. There were just the parties eventually, and the people voted for them. And as much as I wish we still had that, the world has changed. And so with that, I'm asking that you would vote for me for first chairman. This is we'll start my 7th term on the board. It's been my privilege to serve on a variety of committees, and almost all those sub-leadership, administration and rules / executive, finance, human resources, infrastructure / building and grounds, highway, law enforcement, involved in both of the strategic plan initiatives and worked through both of those, as well as representing the county on a PACE committee, which is a statewide committee which offers low interest loans to those wanting to do green energy and clean energy as they renovate hotels and different elements along that way. So I come with a very broad base. My day job, if you want to call it, is a teacher. And with that, the 2 things I have learned are how to ask questions and how to listen, especially as a speech teacher right now. It's been very interesting teaching online performance classes. But in all of those, I have taught almost all of the different subjects. And so with that, I'm saying I have learned that if I'm not familiar with the topic, to find out about the topic. Working on different levels of graduate work in government, library science, and education, questioning is very important. I am thankful for the experience I've had. I'm thankful for the leadership that we've had over the years. It's all been different. They've all brought something special to the plate. They've all brought something that's made a difference in the county. I'm thankful I've been able to be a part of that. I would count it a true blessing to be part of that leadership team. Leadership is really not the word I like to use in my students' classes. It's the word servitude or servantship. The idea that you lead best by serving. And that's what I offer you this evening. Thank you.
Hello again. I won't read my speech again, but just ditto everything I said before. about working together and tackling the hard issues going ahead. I have been a vice chair over the last 6 years or 4 years, and have worked very closely with Steve and with our previous chair to make the atmosphere of the board more collegial, work better together than when I first got on the board 10 years ago. So I would be very happy to join Steve as a team going forward in this very difficult time ahead. I still remain convinced that if we tackle it together, we're going to come out on the far side of this in a better place and maybe see some opportunities out of the challenges ahead. So thank you.
Connor.
I have worked with Steve a little bit, not in a committee together. I think that the position is more than just being supportive of a team that already exists. Anything I can do to be of service and of assistance to any of these guys, I think that would be all I would be looking for. I would take pride in being able to do that. Thank you.
I didn't listen to anybody to that. Yeah. All right, next vote. What color is this? We do.
The orange.
It's this orange or kind of yellowish one. Please make your choice and lay it on your desk. Thank you very much, Paul. For anyone that hasn't been out to the fairgrounds in a while, the restrooms are in the back. Mr. Paulson will point you the right direction. This time, I'll announce that our first vice chair is Amy Renard. move us on to the second vice chair. I believe is, the nomination is a pink sheet here. Please nominate and place them on your desk. We have 9 nominations. Richard Jones.
I decline, thank you.
Richard declines. Augie Teets. Blaine Paulson. Dick Schultz. James Frogger.
I'll accept.
Mike Winnicky.
Sure.
Greg David.
I would decline, thank you.
Connor Hewitt. And Walt Christensen.
I'll accept.
Okay. Augie, you go first.
I'm only getting my exercise. I've been on the county board now for, I think it's 10 years, and I've served on a number of the committees and commissions, health commission. I've been on the Parks Commission for many years, even prior to being on the county board. I'm chairman, Human Services Commission, Veterans Commission. And I have a lot of background in all of those areas, and also outside the county. I serve on the Wisconsin River Rail Transit Committee for the county, and I've been there for many, many years also. So I hope you'll vote for me. Thanks.
Mic is off, Jared.
Thank you again. Just a few other thoughts. It has been my privilege to serve both with Amy and Steve on numerous groups, administration of rules, finance, as well as strategic plan. I think we work well together as a team. We're a good complement. We think in different venues, so we work well together, so we cover the broad spectrum of things. I started, my first term was similar to this one. It was the year of the 100-year flood. 500-year flood, 1,000-year flood. They keep telling us it varies, but quickly dropped into the fire right off the very bat. So I worked in a variety of different situations, and I did mention this before, but I've also been privileged to serve as a second vice chair in the past as well, so I would relish that position to work with these fine supervisors. Thank you.
And Supervisor Lee.
Well, hello. It occurs to me that people have been introducing themselves, so I'll do the same. My name is Mike Winnicky. I represent the 8th District, which is a good part of the southwestern corner of the city of Watertown. This is the beginning of my 4th term on the board, so I've completed 6. I've served on Human Resources, Highway Committee, Sheriff's and Emergency Management, and Home Consortium. Beyond that, I am retired from my job. I worked for about 37 years for Dane County Department of Human Services as an economic support supervisor. I think that's kind of relevant because I think if you look at the budget, human services is a massive amount of the money we spend here every year. Beyond that, way back when, I was on the City of Verona City Council for 6 years, was president pro tem of that body. I was president of the City of Verona Police and Fire Commission. And in those capacities, I served on all sorts of committees. As far as philosophy, I agree with everyone who spoke here tonight that the current board, our past board, our administration, our department heads really don't need a lot of direction, support. They need opinions. They need the role that we're all voted into. So, at any rate, that's it. I'd appreciate your support again. Thank you.
Supervisor Lee.
The committees, I'm on the finance committee, and I think I've been on there for 2 years now. I understand, I have a pretty good grasp of all the budgets that we have to review there every month. I'm also very familiar with the prioritized budgeting and the reasoning and the mathematics behind that, and I understand the ebb and Committee and the County Health Board. Really enjoyed both of those for different reasons. I think thinking about the health of all the people. I would like to you assisting everybody and sharing my views, whatever there is there. Interest. Thank you.
Supervisor Christian.
Well, thank you for this nomination. I appreciate that. This isn't my 4-page speech. I just brought this up here to have something to do with my hands. I've been on the board 10 years now. It's my 6th term that I'm going into. Started in 2008. Do the math. I took a 2-year vacation in there somewhere. I really appreciate the attitude of the public in Jefferson County that I've learned about the community, their appreciation of where they live. And so basically what I would bring to this is a continuation of the good things that Jefferson County presents. We're in between and not Waukesha or Dane County. I think that we are in our way superior to those places. This is where a good place for people to live. I would bring the experience that I had as my occupation. I was a mechanic for 45 years. Of course, I started when I was 5. And in that job, flat rate, that you had to produce. You only got paid for what you did. And if you made a mistake, you didn't get paid for that, to fix it over again. So that attitude of getting down to work and producing things. An example of that is I do spend quite a bit of time going around the county to town board meetings and other events and talking to people. For years, I worked at the Fort Atkinson Farmers Market every Saturday morning. That gave me an opportunity to talk to residents about their concerns regarding the county. The other thing I would bring is my interest in inventiveness. I'm an inventor. I've written 3 patent applications. One was successful, and I've got one tool that I sold to a company. And the way you get that to work is diligence. It's not easy. It's like a foreign language trying to satisfy the language requirements of a patent examiner. But even as a mechanic, I put my nose to the grindstone and tried to make that work. In the unlikely event that a second vice chair is elevated to the position of chair for temporary time, what I would do is follow the direction of the leadership team of Nance and Bernard and support the county administrator and the work of the county, keep going the direction that's going. So you wouldn't be looking at very many big changes if, like I said, the unlikely event that something happened that way. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now vote for second vice chair. I guess we call this purple. All right. We have gone through the primary process here. We're down to two names, James Brogger and Walt Christensen. So we will use our second purple ballot. Congratulations, Supervisor Bronco. Which allows us to move on to committee elections. In the past, there were some committees when I first got on this board that we elected to. We don't have any anymore, but I'll take this opportunity at this point to appoint our zoning committee to our previous zoning committee from the last term to continue this upcoming month starting with a public hearing on Thursday night and the decision meeting, since they've already done the site reviews and the mapping and one of the previous public hearings. Anything else I'm listening to? Communications.
Just the treasurer's report, and then Steve mentioned that the notice of public hearing is April 23rd, 6 p.m. It is via Zoom video conference. That's it.
Thank you very much. Public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Anybody for public comment? All right. County Administrator. Resolution 2019-85, ratification of emergency declaration.
So this board at the last term approved two items on March 19th in an emergency meeting related to the current COVID-19 pandemic. And so tonight, at the conversation with the Executive Committee and Finance Committee last week, we thought it was prudent that the new board ratify that declaration. And the second item is remote attendance rules. So I'm not going to go and read it all again unless there's some questions related to that right now. So the first item would maintain a continuation of the emergency declaration until May 12th, which is roughly at 60 days from when we declared. The assumption being that on May 12th would be the opportunity for the next county board meeting. If at that point in time there's a determination to be made by the chair that we cannot meet, then by default, that declaration will continue on until the next time the county board can meet. That's meant as a trigger point to ensure we can maintain operations in case for some reason we need to change courses. So the intent is this was going to be the last 60 days, so the board can reconsider on May 12th, which would be naturally your next meeting in May. But if for some reason you could not meet, you would naturally continue on until you meet again as a body to approve or say we're in a good position to go back to normal operations. And then the second item is just, again, this is rules related to remote attendance. We thought this is very prudent because this is different than we normally have in the rules. And this basically allows for a very broad opportunity for remote attendance, both by members of the committee, boards, etc., and by the public in our meetings, not only in person, but the meetings we've had already been remote via Zoom. Now we are working through different technologies. As an example, tonight, for the public, we are simulcasting basically on YouTube and keeping Zoom to the board members online. That was basically as a security attempt. Many of you might have seen in the news that a couple of boards have been, folks got the code and they got in there and some things were downloaded. So this is as part of our attempt to maintain the integrity of the process, but still allow for public transparency with it. So that second one is just allowing us to have this broad opportunity for public transparency purposes that we can do remote attendance. We will continue to follow the format that you see in your, that we've done to date. So, Mr. Chair, I would respectfully request ratification of both these ordinances.
We have a roll call vote on resolution 2019-85, ratification of emergency declaration. This one we could do by a simple voice vote. Second. Okay, we have a second. We have a move by Dogger, second by Morris. We can move this by voice vote. All in favor?
Are there not comments?
Oh, yeah.
Do I need to come to the microphone?
I think it would be best, right? Start great.
I just have to say I have great concerns about what's happening in our society today and how it's been handled by our government, especially at higher levels. I think that the lockdown is causing a lot of hardship, and not only hardship, but also causing death because people are committing suicide. You lose your job, you lose your business, you lose your farm, you kill your animals off because there's no market for them. All the different effects that the coronavirus lockdown is having has great concerns for me, for our society and our community. I hope that we really watch the numbers and not some of the progressions and modeling that has been done kind of put us into this mess, I think. I'm going to vote for these resolutions because I think it's important for our government, our local government, to have the capacity to do what needs to be done. But I needed to share with you my concerns that this lockdown is having potentially more effect on our society than the people that would die from the virus that probably have comorbidities anyhow. And that it may not be so easy to restart our economy after this. So I just wanted to say that I have great concerns about this. Address that perchance at our local government level as we follow the rules that come from Washington and the state.
Is there anybody else who's comment on this resolution? Anybody else? Discussion. All in favor of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. And resolution 2019-86, authorization for multiple amendments. A motion by Paulson and a second. Did I hear a second? Second by George Jake, by Supervisor Jekyll. Discussion. Seeing none, we'll move by voice vote. All in favor of authorization for remote attendance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Human Resources Committee. Resolution creating a full-time psychotherapist position at the Human Services Department. Supervisor Broad.
Resolution 2020, number 1. I'm excited, that's the first one, especially since we carried it over from the emergency meeting, we didn't have enough ballot to make this decision at the time period. Creating one full-time psychotherapist position at the Human Services Department. The mental health and alcohol and drug outpatient clinics provide services to Jefferson County adults and children with mental illness and or alcohol or drug issues. The Jefferson County Mental Health and AOD team received 2,406 requests for services, crisis calls, and emergency detentions in the first 2 months of 2020. This is an unprecedented number of requests. It is more than twice the number of requests for the entire year of 2008 and 300 more requests than last year at this time. As a result, consumers are waiting nearly 2 months for a second appointment, which increases the risk for self-harm and suicide attempts. An additional psychotherapist is needed to help manage the increasing influx of mental health needs in Jefferson County. On March 17, 2020, the Human Resources Committee reviewed the request from the Human Services Director to create one full-time psychotherapist position in mental health and AODA clinic in Human Services and recommended forwarding this corresponding resolution to the County Board for consideration. Moving down, please, to the fiscal note. Salary and fringe benefits for the remainder of 2020 is $56,990.63, of which $19,157 is funded through the insurance revenue and other medical benefits, and $37,833.46 through tax levy. On March 10, 2020, the County Board of Supervisors approved a resolution authorizing year-end requests for refunds for the fiscal year 2019 from the Human Services Department. Therefore, no additional tax levy is needed for 2020. The annual cost for a psychotherapist position is $85,293.96 and will be funded approximately 40% with insurance revenue, Medicaid and Medicare, CCS reimbursement, and WINCR costs reconciliation at 60% with tax levy. The County Board approval requires a 2/3 vote of the entire membership of the County Board, 20 of the 30 members of the County Board. I move for passage.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this resolution? Any discussion? This will have to be a roll call vote. We need a 2/3 vote for this.
Aye. David?
Aye. Aye.
Morris?
Aye.
Winnie?
Aye.
Bernard? Aye. Baxter?
Aye.
Johns?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Martin? Aye. Bass?
Aye.
Coots? White? Drainer? Paulson? Jacob? Lindell? Felter? Fitzgerald? Mueller? Schultz? Christensen?
And online.
5 online, all voted yes. And everyone here voted yes.
Passes unanimously, which brings us to the Law Enforcement Committee, item 19, resolution to repeal and amend resolution 2018-17 adopting the Jefferson County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan 2019-24. Who is chair? Oh, Supervisor Morris.
Resolution 2022. Repeal and amend Resolution 2018-73, adopting the Jefferson County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan 2019-2024. The Jefferson County Hazard Mitigation Plan 2019-2024 consists of 6 chapters and a map series, which has not been reduplicated and included in this resolution because the plan totals 146 pages, but is available for review by the public on the county's website. The plan presents background information about Jefferson County, including its setting, demographic, and economic characteristics, climate, natural resources, land use, development trends, and access, and functional need populations and groups in Jefferson County. The plan also contains a complete inventory of critical facilities in the county and includes an estimate of losses to buildings, infrastructure, and critical facilities that could be caused by natural hazards. The plan concludes by identifying goals, objectives, and policies that will help to craft appropriate solutions to identified problems. This includes presenting a variety of activities to help foster hazard mitigation efforts and designating funding sources to be applied toward identified projects. Jefferson County adopted a multi-jurisdictional plan in 2008, which was approved by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, on July 25th, 2008, and covers all the municipalities in Jefferson County. The proposed hazard mitigation plan was substantially updated and revised to meet new state and federal guidelines as a part of the 5-year update started in 2012. The plan, as revised, was approved by FEMA on October 18, 2013, and by Wisconsin Emergency Management on October 28, 2013. This most recent version is intended to guide mitigation planning efforts in Jefferson County during the 5-year period from 2019 to 2024. On December 28, 2018, the Law Enforcement Emergency Management Committee reviewed this resolution, recommended forwarding to the county board to adopt the Jefferson County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan as proposed. Is that December 28, 2018? Okay.
Already heard that? 2019 and 2024.
There is no fiscal note. I move for passage of this resolution.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Passes with voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none, it passes. Public comment. Any public comment of the general nature?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I think I'm a public. Continuing my remarks from just a couple minutes ago, Joseph Tainter said societies collapse when the complexity exceeds their capacity to pay for that complexity. And it makes me think that one of the things that the lockdown has shown us is just how vulnerable we are to certain areas of our life and our society. Just-in-time delivery when supply chains get interrupted, what the offshoring of jobs have done locally to our community, but we feel the effects when there's an emergency, a crisis like this. And that the hyper complexity of our economy demands perfect operation of supply chains. This has shown me the real importance of local food, local energy production, local jobs. I would hope that in the future, this board does everything it can to support local businesses, especially agriculture. And I know that we oftentimes can't do that because there's a state statute that says we have to choose the lowest competent bid. I don't think that's right. I think we should have the ability to choose who and what we want. And this is just what the virus has shown us is this vulnerability of offshoring jobs and things of that nature really has ramifications when the stuff hits the fan. So just consider that as we go through our couple of years here together on the board. Thank you.
Any more public comment? Public comment of any nature? Ben, do you have any announcements?
Just some quick updates on where we're at in the situation. I think we have made public our ongoing dashboard our health department has put together. We continue to monitor how many we have on a daily basis. We include not only those cases that are positive, we also show those cases that have been tested that are negative, and we're also showing recovery rates and hospitalization rates. So it's updated once a day. That link has been sent to the board. It is on our Facebook page and our website. So if you want to track how we are doing, please look at that. We do not include Watertown because they have their own health department from the reporting, so we don't want to overlap that. So if you look at state data versus ours, it's going to look a little bit different, but feel free to reach out to us. We do have calls almost every single day in some fashion related to this issue going on. We have activated our virtual EOC. That's actually meeting 3 days a week. We include all our 4 area hospitals, including Fort, Watertown, Aurora, Summit, Oconomowoc, and Oconomowoc Pro Health, to talk about where we're at. And we include law enforcement, emergency management, highway, EMS, fire association leads, etc. And so we make sure there's good communication among our communities in terms of how we're looking at this. We're also into the supervisor's data point, the economic challenges we're going to face, and we know they're going to probably be tough. But to that point, our economic development organization has taken steps already to work on this. It's about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we launched what's called Back to Business. It's a partnership with the Small Business Development Center out of UW-Whitewater. It offers one-on-one coaching with businesses in terms of looking at where they're at today, some of the challenges they face, and what are the economic issues they have to look at for the future, and how do they adjust their business plan according to that as well. It also looks at, and our team is supporting folks as they look at potential grant opportunities with the feds. And so those are some things that we're trying to do right now as you look at the future related to economic development. And then I guess the last main thing we are hearing questions on is just budgeting. And, we're doing a lot of analysis as we speak. The positives are that we have taken steps before this year to make sure we're in a good fiscal position, but there are going to be some things that we have to work through. And our team has been great as we've looked at that going ahead. But I know it was mentioned a couple of times tonight, we're going to have to be looking at some things. So finances internally, but also as it impacts our economies of our communities is also going to be a huge part. So feel free to reach out. Your team is working hard, especially Don, I see back, emergency management, our public health team. A lot of others are working every day. I mean, every day, and pretty much a 10, 12-hour days. So we got some hardworking folks trying to look out for the best interest of our community. So just make sure you understand what we're out there to help support all our communities as a whole. So, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ben, and the staff for all that you're doing. Supervisor Morris. Audrey, what do you want us to do with this piece of paper? That's your nomination papers. Make sure you sign it. Anything else? I want to thank you all for putting the trust in me, and I want to thank you all for serving in this precarious time. Let's make Jefferson County a really shining example of how we can humanely and fiscally and properly handle a crisis. I thank you all for your service. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moving second.
That was quick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Okay.